Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 214, and we are reacting to the first half of Invincible Season 4. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. Hello, Sav.
Hey, Wes. How you doing?
Doing stressing. It's
stressing.
It's suit up time for school. We're at the end of the year, so we got testing coming up, and I'm filling in for. Please, dear God, no. I'm filling in for a teacher that quits in a high stakes class. There's a test that the kids have to pass in order to graduate, and I only got like 2 weeks to try and get them to pass, and they are not there yet. Let's just say that.
You gotta grow your
Your
playoff
school
beard, Wes.
sounds like a war of attrition, man. Like
A little
another
bit.
one bites the dust.
Another one. So that's how that's going. Brian, how you doing?
Not bad.
Not bad. How's the editing world? Are you winning more awards?
0 awards are coming my way.
No awards.
Big goose egg.
Not this year, huh? It's all right. All right. Well, we're gonna win some awards for this podcast today. We're talking about Invincible Season 4, the first half of the season only, because that's all that's been released. We got 4 episodes so far. I love that pun intended.
Didn't ask how I was doing.
I said hi, Sav, and then you asked me how I was doing. How are you doing, Sav?
I'm doing good, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's good to be podcasting with you boys. I really feel good about our content for these next 2 episodes.
I do too. I'm excited about both of them. I felt like both of them were enjoyable. So Invincible Season 4. There's an 8 episode season. We've already got the first 4. The next 4 come out over the next few weeks. Sav, lay us down some context. This is going to be spoilers after Sav's summary. So if you don't want spoilers, go watch it first, then come back to us. It's on Amazon Prime. You can find it there with all the ads taking up 2 minutes. And if you ever try to fast forward another 2 minutes of ads, it's infuriating.
Welcome to hell.
So you get punished for trying to fast forward through ads?
Oh yeah.
No. You can't fast forward through ads. But what happened to me yesterday was I was trying to find a specific scene to watch because I lost the place or whatever, and then it made me watch an ad to start a minute and 20 seconds of ads. I fast forwarded and it made me watch another a minute and 20 of ads, and then it happened to be right on the little ad break. And it turns out that I needed the scene after the ad break. And it made me watch another minute and 20 of ads just to move forward 30 seconds in the show.
Welcome to late-stage capitalism, baby.
I hate that.
Welcome,
I had been saying this week
Wes. Cool down.
Well, I had been saying to someone else this week, I was like, oh, the ads in Amazon aren't usually as bad. Usually they give you 2 minutes of ads in the beginning, and then they don't usually give you that many ads, maybe 1 in the middle. And it's usually fine. And if they let you skip, if you've watched the ad recently, they'll let you skip forward without having to watch another ad. This was not the case this week. I don't know what happened this time. I had to watch literally 3 minutes in 30 seconds of ads. No, 4 minutes. I had to watch 4 minutes of ads.
Dishes.
I had to watch 4 minutes
do your
of
dishes,
ads.
check your email.
Ugh,
you'll be all right.
Awful. All right. Anyways, let's continue.
Oh,
What's the context, Sav?
So, friends,
4 minutes of ads to watch this freaking show.
So for folks who recall the end of the last Invincible season, we had a lot happen. We have the setup for a Viltrumite conflict. We had Nolan reveal the big drop about the Viltrumites of the numbers being less than 50, which we found out a little bit more about that this season. We had the Invincible War, where Invincible's at this point, I think at this point we were getting into Nemesis territory. Invincible's nemesis Angstrom summoned a bunch of alternate marks who absolutely wrecked the planet, leading into the Invincible War. We also got Conquest pulling up and also wrecking things, and Invincible finally being able to come out with a clean dub against a Viltrumite. So the end of the season, we had a lot going on, but the main setup is that the Viltrumites are a bigger threat than ever, but we've learned that there is a weakness, and we're getting a little bit more about Omni-Man's side plot, but the main thing is Mark is sick of this shit. And he said, yo, if someone threatens my family or threatens us, I will kill you. And I think that's a very good segue into just this new season of Mark really having to reckon with, yo, are you willing to catch a body to protect the people you love? And from the events of season 3, the answer is yes. Now, will he be invulnerable or invincible to the psychological effects? I don't know, fellas. Let's talk about it. Like
Nice.
Cue the Invincible title screen.
Which, God, that bit never gets old.
Yeah, go call and then just the title card.
Yeah, so I think that's the main stuff to sum it up. Yeah, turn to where we are.
Nice. All right, so let's just hop right into the episodes.
Yeah.
Through the first 4 episodes so far. So it finishes with the one with all the lava monsters in the underrealm. How are you feeling about the direction of the season so far? There's like several different plot lines kind of happening. There's been a couple of like short-lived plot lines happening. Brian, are there any that you're more interested or less interested in? Let us know which ones are working for you and which ones are not working for you.
Well, so the overarching character plot line, right, is what Savon said, is that Mark is grappling with this idea of whether or not he needs to kill an MFer, right, to actually do some good in the world, right? In his mind, maybe if he had killed Angstrom Levy like outright, all the devastation that he then later caused would never have happened. And so we get pretty quickly in these first 4 episodes, the Martian Sequids come back, right? And that had been seeded, I think, since season 2, right? That a Sequid had actually tagged along on the spaceship back to Earth from Mars, and was lurking in the background and building underground, till it finally exploded and was really threatening to take over the entire planet. Mark comes in, saves the day, and ultimately makes the decision under duress to basically put his fist through the brains of the main human host of the Martian Sequids, right? And so that's him crossing the Rubicon, right? Like he has now taken an innocent life, and very much
intentionally, at that, on purpose,
right? Not on purpose. This is his choice, and now he's in completely new territory as a hero. He said, like, yeah, I can go this far. Rest of the Guardians aren't sure. There's mixed reactions about whether or not that was the right thing to do. And then like this is the sort of problem that is going to keep rearing its head throughout the season. So, he has another encounter with Titan, almost killed Titan. Has another encounter with what's the name of our T-Rex?
Dinosaurus.
Dinosaurus.
Very, very easy name to remember.
I know, in my head I was like, is it dinosaurs?
It is.
That can't be right. That can't be right.
Yes, it is something that Kaya could come up with. No shade to your daughter.
Also, Dinosaurus, low-key, maybe one of my favorite characters. So Invincible also almost choked out that guy to death, right? So, like, time and again, these things are coming up, and we'll be seeing sort of like what side of this dynamic is Mark ultimately going to fall in, or like, well, we already know he's crossed the line. How far down the line is he going to go, or how far away from that line is he going to go? And I, getting back to your original question about, like, what story threads are really interesting.
Wait,
so
before you go there, can I just point out that, like, those were different scenarios in the sense that, like, he was sort of more rage, like, passionate. I'm just gonna, like, beat this guy to the ground and, like, sort of have this blackout moment. Whereas, like, when he killed the guy, the main Sequid guy, he kind of, like, had remorse about it in the moment and was like, I'm really sorry. This is just what I have to do right in this moment to, like, save the world and save the planet and protect as many people as I can. And like, I feel like those are two different things he had to deal with, right? Like, one is he's losing control and he's kind of fearful of himself and, like, am I going to actually have control, or am I just programmed to kill people? Whereas the thing with the Martian, he actually, like, was like, doing some calculus around how is this going to actually end if I don't take this action.
Well, that's what's juicy,
I
right?
think
That's what's juicy, though, right? Sorry, Brian, I'll hand it back to you in a sec. But like, that's what's juicy, though, is that regardless of how you might feel about that, Mark doesn't see that distinction, and that's part of what's causing his character to have all these like spiraling and mini breakdowns. But like, that's what makes it interesting. In his mind, there isn't as much nuance because in your mind, okay, cool, one was for the greater good, the other was him maybe losing his cool for a sec. For him, there's no distinction because he recognizes he's one of the most powerful beings on the planet, and it doesn't really matter whether he crashes out for the kill someone for the greater good, or he's upset. It's dangerous for him to be willing to use his power that way, and he's traumatized from his dad. And even Cecil points out, yeah, I've killed people too, but I don't have the power to level the planet if I'm having a pissy day. But like, so like, that is what makes it interesting. It's like, it's not as simple as, oh, this situation's better than this one. It's just that Mark doesn't even want to open that Pandora's box, and it's clearly a lot for him.
All of it scares him.
Yeah, but I'm saying is
him.
that's the conflict. That's what makes it interesting, especially because Mark's self vision is so different from maybe what we see as objective outside viewers because he has that responsibility. But that's what makes Mark interesting. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, like, Mark is clearly very aware and self-conscious about these things, right? This is the topic of conversation that he himself brings up in the most recent episode 4, with the tailor, and he's saying that, like, now that I've crossed this line, I know that I can go there, and maybe now it has become my default to go there, and maybe that's part of the concern. So we have this main overarching character conflict for him, and I think there are going to be some really juicy conflicts with villains and stuff that test where Mark is at along this path. And so there are a few things that we know that are coming through, right? The Sequits have been dealt with, but we know that dinosaurs maybe still out there. We also didn't get a full resolution to the alien queen that showed up to suck the energy out of the nuclear plant.
Yeah, Universa, I think was her name.
Universa, yeah. So that I think that one is still dangling because I know that there is a certain there's a certain conclusion to that hasn't happened yet. And then of course at the end of episode 4, we get Omni-Man back on Earth, there to recruit Mark for the Viltrumite War, right? And so there's the Earth specific threats, and then there's the intergalactic threats. And I think all of that will be actually really interesting to see where Invincible ends up landing, and how these things are going to test his resolve one way or the other.
Absolutely, Brian.
Brian, will you read the chat that I sent you? All right. Sav, you want to add anything in terms of what plot lines are making it for you?
Yeah, I mean, Brian, I think highlighted the main overarching stuff that everybody's super, super into. So I'll go a little bit more off the beaten path. And some of this is maybe, I don't want to accidentally spoil anything. I like what's going on with the robot and Monster Girl just going off into the Flaxen dimension. I think that's going to be one of those like maybe slower burn payoff moments, but I like that they're planting seeds for other characters' development too, because if you noticed, Mark is having his whole thing about the Sequids and being more proactive and saying, yo, man, we can't be twiddling our thumbs. Sometimes you got to make a play in order for the greater good. But you see Robot kind of go through a similar thing when he throws up that last Sequid and only stops another Sequid invasion because Monster Girl happened to save him at the last second. And even him and Monster Girl kind of have a moment of like, hey, maybe Mark's right. And so what I'm enjoying is that, yes, Mark is having his own existential struggle about being the responsibility that his power gives him and being able to use it to protect but not abuse it. But all throughout Mark's stuff, other characters are all having their own little side opinions and feelings about this stuff too. And it's a nice little way to kind of just paint out, hey, where do these other characters actually stand in terms of the use of lethal force? What's justified? What's not? And I think the show's done a good job of kind of us actually building out each Guardian member kind of has their own pretty specific set of values that I think will be important later in the story. Like we even saw with Cecil, right? When Cecil and Mark had their falling out last season, the Guardians all had very, very different feelings and reactions to that. And I think it's been similar with this season. They all had different reactions to Invincible killing the astronaut, right? Like Bulletproof was actually the most empathetic, saying, yo, man, I don't think I would have made it in time. He had to make a call. Someone else saying, no, he absolutely had time to save him. So, yes, a theme in this show is great power, great responsibility, and, to what extent should you or should you not be using lethal force? But it's not just Mark's dilemma, it's all of the heroes' dilemma. And I like that they've been doing a good job over the last 3 seasons of painting out just where everybody stands. We know that Robot is extremely pragmatic. We know that Bulletproof is a little more realistic. We know Immortal's kind of more of just a fallen soldier, a fallen line good soldier. Granted, he's retired now, but like even the new guy, Britt, he's clearly more of a just fall in line soldier by the books type. And like, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but with all the conflicts we know are upcoming, like I really do think these characters' unique perspectives are going to be very important in terms of plot. I don't know if anybody else has noticed how they've built that out, but I think it's a very good detail for a show that has such a really big cast. Even Oliver, right? Like Oliver and Mark had a whole crashing out over like Oliver just saying taking lives is absolutely fine. And Oliver isn't evil, we know that, but there's some clear, these characters have very clear personal morals that the show is doing a good job of highlighting. And it adds to the tension when Mark has to make these crazy calls that everyone's going to land in 5 different places in terms of how they reacted. Even Cecil saying, you did the right thing, I just don't want it to be you doing that thing. But it's like there's just a lot of nuance in that, and I really enjoyed those dialogues and conversations aftermath of killing.
I agree. I think that Cecil conversation was really illuminating to me in that you could see, like, I feel like it rounded out Cecil in a nice way in that he's always been like very like calculated, very like matter of fact. This is what has to happen. Kind of like when we talk about Project Hail Mary, we'll talk about that director. But I thought it was like really interesting when he said like, I don't want that for you right now. Like, you're still a kid. You can't buy alcohol. Like, this should still be something that is not on your plate yet, right? Like, this shouldn't be something you have to grapple with at the age of 19 or, however old he is. And there's some amount of like, I want to protect you, that like was genuine. I don't think he was bullshitting him. I think he was like really wanting to like protect him and say like, you're someone that like I'm invested in and I want you to actually be like a whole person too. And not just like, you're not just a weapon or an asset to me in that way. And I thought that was cool to like have that be, because I think in seasons past, it hasn't been always clear like how Cecil views him. I don't think he's lost sight of the fact that Mark is still a threat in some ways, but I think he does express that like, hey, like I do care about you. And like, if this goes the way that, I want it to go, then like, we're going to be on the same side and like, I'll be supporting you kind of that way. I thought it was cool. And then you were talking about Oliver and how they've done a flip, right? Like Oliver was the one originally who was like, dad killing people is like how you get rid of the bad guys, right? He had a very like black and white kids view of like how you handle crime, just like, oh yeah, you just kill them. Like that's the end of it.
Dad murders people in his sleep. What's
exactly.
the big deal?
What's it? Yeah. Like, oh, we're just better than them. And he had a lot of his dad's like thinking, right? His Viltrumite thinking. And what you see in this season is like, he's been raised by Debbie the past few months. And now he's taking on more of like a humanistic, like trying to understand everybody else and that kind of idea, and he's able to now, he's older, so he's able to put himself in other people's shoes a lot better now. And I just thought Debbie. Like a lot of that. Yeah, right. Like Debbie is the one that is the one who's handling that, right? And really informing him and teaching him and showing him the ways of like, how do you love and how do you care for other people? And right when we see that battle with Titan, he stops Mark from killing Titan because he saw the little girl and he saw like what Titan's connection to his family, and he can put himself in the shoes of like, if you kill this, she's gonna lose her dad, just like I lost my dad, right? Basically, I lost my Omni-Man dad. So like his growth, but like his growth because Debbie is the one who's like, let me give you a hug, right? Let me show you what what empathy looks like. And there's a direct scene where or Omni-Man gets a hug from Alan and is super uncomfortable with it
Yeah,
because
he's
he
just
doesn't
like,
know
what is
how
this
to,
shit?
right? Yeah, exactly. So if he had been raised by Omni-Man to this point, right, he wouldn't know what hugs were. He wouldn't know what that kind of love is, that like softer love, right? He'd only know this like tough kind of love, even though like obviously Nolan had changed a lot. But when he went to Thraxin or Thraxa, I don't know what the planet's called. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought like lots of these cool moments of like juxtaposition and like growth and changes and really like showing us without telling us all of these moments of growth that these characters are having throughout the thing. I've loved that. Yeah, I don't know.
No, absolutely, Wes. And the cool part is that we have to remember Oliver's not even kind of human. You know, like he's probably the most fish out of water out of everyone else because.
Oh, true. He just
remember,
looks like
he's not human. You have to remember, he's half Viltrumite, half Thraxan. So like,
that's right.
Just him even.
I think of him as human.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of those like again. I think also that makes Debbie's character development cool because we established, hey man, she was able to raise the one good Mark and the one good Oliver who did not have a good foundation to be on Earth and all that shit. You know, being raised. You know, just his whole situation. But yeah, man, the morals of these characters really run deep, and I think it really resonates through the show. That's a good observation, Wes.
All right. Any plot lines that we're not as digging into? I know. Well, I think we should talk about episode 4 here because one of my coworkers at school had mentioned like, oh, I was telling him I was going to watch Invincible for the pod, and he was like, oh, he's like, I've been enjoying it, but he's like, I didn't really like episode 4. It really felt like filler. And so for context, episode 4 is the one where they go to the underrealm and Damien Darkblood and Satan and like a weird like
just say Satan. Just say Satan. Yeah. There's no beating around the bush, man. There's a demon,
but it's like an elf
Satan.
It's a very different Satan than you're used to seeing in media or stories and or church. And they're taking on this like other villain from the Underrealm who wants to take over both the Underrealm and
Volcanica.
Man,
they love these names. These names are hilarious in this show. They're so just
Machine Head,
famously on the nose. They don't even pretend to be. I am a Fiorino.
Yeah, but I feel like that's like the joke, right? The wink that he's doing of like, some of these names are just too on the nose in like Marvel and DC.
What
and
universe?
Like, you know, so like maybe we just make it like even more on the
Alan
nose.
the alien.
Yeah, and so I don't know what did you guys think of that? Because I actually ended up not feeling like it was filler, expecting to be like, oh, you know, maybe this is just filler. One of those episodes where you're like, oh, whatever, it's just kind of a thing that didn't have any connections or whatever, and maybe the animators just needed a break from the story. I don't know. Or sometimes you could be like, oh, they just went off the beaten path for no reason, like they lost the momentum. And to me, it wasn't that at all. I felt like the momentum was carried in the way that like Mark had to fight this battle, and the introduction of like, oh, there's other forces at play here, right? That are also threatening the Earth, and that in future seasons could potentially provide another problem for Mark to solve. Because he can't kill her, apparently, you know. So I don't know, Brian. You kind of mentioned briefly that you were sort of on the other side, that it felt more like filler to you.
Yeah, I thought it was filler for a few reasons. And to put this into context, this is like Invincible animated series filler, which is not like anime filler, which is true filler. Like they seriously are just like padding.
They're waiting for the manga artist to finish doing more chapters so that they can like, translate it over.
They've run out of content from the manga, and like, we're just going to throw something in there. It's not going to pertain to the main story or anything. And you can skip it. Like you actually can skip it.
It's inconsequential to the story.
This is not exact. This is not a 1-to-1 of that, right? Like, I think Invincible as a show does a good job of keeping things fairly connected, and they recognize that, there's only an eight episode season. Things have to hold their own weight, right? So we get the conversation with the tailor that I mentioned earlier. There's discussions with Darkblood that relate to the existential crisis that Mark is having about being a hero, and Darkblood's able to talk to him about being a hero, and what being good means, like maybe choosing the lesser of two evils. And
there's nuance, right? Gray areas.
there's some decent character building, but I will say the trappings around that felt a little sparse. Hell does not have a lot of inhabitants. So that there's definitely that issue. And we know that Invincible as a series has an animation budget problem generally, and this episode in particular, I think you feel some of those shortcomings a little bit more. And I think part of that is that also, or like compounding that problem, is that this also does not take place in the comics, right? Like Damien Darkblood as a character kind of disappears for the most part in the comics. And I know Robert Kirkman,
he's barely
the creator, the creator of Invincible, who wrote this episode, right? Like, has wanted to revisit Damien Darkblood and is like finding a way to reinsert him into the narrative of Invincible. And this is what we got, right? And they're sort of like planting seeds for maybe the return of Volcanica, or like Damien Darkblood being back on the surface of the earth,
or Satan being on Earth, right?
Doing his
yeah, because
thing.
he kind of said something like, that was a nice little cliffhanger of like,
maybe Satan can like rule the surface of the earth.
What
right?
did they do? Or the surface to piss off Volcanic, and I'm like, ooh, is this going to be a Doc Seismic thing? Because he had the magma people too, and he was on some shit. That's a whole nother conversation. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah. So, they plant some seeds there, but but for the most part, when you think about like the percentage of stuff that happened in this episode, I think that ratio feels a little off. There are some long conversations with Damien Darkblood where we are stuck in the same like visual, the same like shot, right?
Did you not like the falling? Did you not like the falling?
It's a bottomless pit, Brian.
There is nothing happening. That's not the only one, though. They're also talking on the edge of the cliff.
They were.
When they're
like
just
twice.
Like seated there.
Twice, right?
Twice. And those are some long conversations because
they already built that.
Somebody give me a Darkblood impersonation. How does he talk?
Brian.
He's like,
podcast intentional. Wes, prepare question. Savon, argue.
I already fell asleep. As good as that's how good your impersonation was. I already fell asleep.
Thank you.
Like, oh man, you guys are really like stretching this out. Like, there's so many other storylines that they introduced in the first 3 episodes, and now we're gonna be in hell for this whole thing, and we don't see hell, right? Damien Darkblood explains to us what hell is, which is all cool, like really cool ideas. Love that it's not like the hell that humans have mythologized over our entire existence, but it's like something else entirely. And Satan is not like the inverse, benevolent God or anything like that. Like heaven and God, like that is inconsequential, doesn't really exist in their minds, and like. Satan's kind of like a fun, quirky hero in this. All of that is really good. We're like, fun and interesting writing, but like, do we get to see and experience that, or do we just hear Damien Darkblood tell us about all these things for like 40% of the episode, maybe? Ooh, like. Whoa, they're stretching this out. And like if that's all they had, I feel like they could have condensed some of this hell stuff and maybe show us a glimpse of what's going on with Robot and Monster Girl in the Flaxen world, or like cut to I don't know, cut to Cecil talking to his underlings or like whoever.
Conquest.
You saying this could have been a B plot? You saying this could have been an A plot, B plot episode of like,
this is
happening.
They
but
really
there's something
stretched
else
the A plot instead.
Okay.
which is kind of a D plot if you think about it.
All right.
Respond, Sav.
So, one, Brian, I do genuinely, like, we joke a lot here. I appreciate that you still recognize that, like, the driving force of the episode was Mark's character development. And that's why I still don't want to categorize it as filler. Also, filler has a negative connotation these days. In a world where we're getting 8-episode seasons, I want to bring back
it
filler.
used to have a positive connotation. Like, the filler episode is out.
Filler before it used to be always a negative thing. I just think now with the way shows are so much shorter and more condensed, the role filler had is kind of like, actually, I wouldn't mind just some side episodes that just let us have the characters doing shit. Because in an 8-episode season, you're really limited in what you could work with compared to, you had, even though anime, you had shows that'd be 20 episodes a season. That just gives you time to just have a chill episode that's like still character development, but not, you don't have to feel like, oh my God, if we're not pushing the plot forward, we're wasting precious time, which that's a different critique I have about this show we'll talk about later. But I like that you recognize that Mark's character development is the real driving force of this episode. And that's what I liked about it. I like that Mark is in literal rock bottom as a person, because he's saying, like, he's even telling his girlfriend, I'm not all right, actually.
Well done.
We love depression, Mark. This man has the most intense eye bags I've ever seen for an animated character. I'm like, man, this dude tired. So I do like, from a writing perspective, he's struggling. He ends up in literal hell while he's in this rock bottom. It ends up getting a good therapy session from a demon in a battle involving Satan that actually helps him kind of reevaluate just his stance and where he stands on killing and what being good does. And so, like other episodes of Invincible,
would you say that he was working through some of his demons?
Yes. Absolutely. That's actually really good. That's a really good one,
very
Wes.
Good.
Thank you, Wes.
Good.
That was
Applause.
legit. Yeah, no.
Applause.
I give you that, Wes. Bang. So in terms of like what it represented, I really enjoyed it. Again, hell, getting better, getting therapy from a demon. I know Damien Darkblood's way of talking can be grating at times, but I really do like how that juxtaposed with how Mark did, and their conversations were so awkward, but in an awkward that kind of worked. So I think that's the main thing of like, before, when we discuss this episode, we have to remember that is the key important. What should I be taking out of this? That Mark is working through his shit to figure out what his morality is and the stuff we just talked about, which, again, that's a driving theme of the season. I think this episode also suffered a little bit because we got 3 Viltrumite episodes back to back to back. And so most people were watching 3 all at once Viltrumite episodes, and then pacing wise for the next release, you're switching gears. I don't think that's necessarily anyone's fault. That's just the order in which
that's Robert Kirkman.
Well, hold on, hear me out. What I'm saying is that, like, that's one of those, if you were to watch this season in its entirety, that wouldn't feel as jarring, rather than, oh, Invincible's out, I watched 3 episodes straight, and then the next week it's a major sheer gift chain. Like, that feels like more of a scheduling thing and just the way shows are released. Like, if Invincible had done weekly episode by episode releases or something, that maybe wouldn't have felt as much of just like a jerk back of like, oh man, I got all this Viltrumite shit in 1 week, and then the following week we do this major shift.
That's a drug dealer problem, man. Like,
yeah, but hold on, but I'm just saying, it's just
you gave me this fix, and now
I know, but that's one of those
now I can't get.
I know, but that's just one of those. I feel like we would receive this differently on a rewatch, or if you had watched it when all the episodes were out, like. Because that's just
what ended up
it's
happening.
Like an album putting all the good songs in the front of the album, and it's like, okay, well, if you listen to the album in sessions and you put all the singles in the front, but really you should have peppered it out. My point is that that's more of like, that feels like a more business side thing. But Brian, here's where I agree.
They also didn't show the fight. They didn't show the fight with the 3.
Well, no. Here's my critique on the episode.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. We've seen him beat up.
My biggest critique was that the opening fight.
I think that's a hint. That's a hint of like, we're stretching this.
Well, here's the thing. I think it was like they didn't need to. I think my biggest critique with the episode was that the opening fight singles with Volcanica and the demons was really dope, but because we hadn't gotten any like build up or introduction to them, it was hard to feel invested in what was actually a very well choreographed fight. Like, the choreography of the fight was amazing.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
My thing was like, man, I wish I cared about these characters more. Like, I don't know anyone's names yet. I only know Volcanica's name because the closed caption said the character. And the fighting was awesome, and I fuck with Damien Darkblood, and I dug all that. I think if that fight had been shorter, then we still get the introduction of all these hell characters, and then they take that little extra 2 minutes and then put it into Brian, maybe the Cerberus fight, or maybe just a little bit more action to balance things out, I think it works a bit better. But I think the biggest issue was that was a really long cold open that didn't give us a lot to hang on to. And it gave us good exposition and context later, but I would have liked that sooner. That way the demon siblings all fighting would have felt a lot cooler. But I just didn't know to what extent I should care for these demons because I don't know their names. I don't know. I just know there's Damien siblings. Should I be sad that they died? Are they going to get brought back? Like, they did get brought back. So I was like, well, I think that was like a pacing mistake they made. But this episode has so many fun moments that it's like, I don't really care. Honestly, this episode, I was just having fun in the sense that, like, they just like the Satan shit and just Mark just saying shit like, I'm not going to bow to Satan. Or, when Mark pulls up in hell, sees Satan, and is on site about to kill him, and Damien's like, no! And he's like, I'm not here to fight Satan. Or just the Satan being played by Bruce Campbell.
Throwing the crown?
Yeah, throwing the crown. They're like, no! And you think he's going to betray him, and he's like, it's fragile.
Uh-huh.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell's the Evil Dead guy, right?
Yeah, he's from Evil Dead, which is even funnier because, they're clearly doing their little meta reference humor, whatever. But, like, Bruce Campbell playing it as this ridiculous Satan character was just genuinely hilarious. And then they hype him up to be this badass, but he's weak as shit and gets washed in the actual fight. And all of this is happening to the Raining Blood by Slayer playing. And I think just the little kid in me was just, like, I think that activated the comic book kid in me of just, it's Mark fighting demons in hell with Slayer playing. I'm a happy camper right now. And I was just sitting there, like, literally out loud. I was like, that Raining Blood? I was like, oh, so this is the kind of time we on? And I literally leaned forward, bows to knees. So, all that to say, Brian, I think from a pacing and how they chose to focus on certain characters, I think definitely it was a little bit wacky. Again, intro fight was way too long for people we didn't have any introduction to or knew anything about. But I think, like, the world building and frankly some of just the comedic bits were just good enough for me to say I'm enjoying myself. And we still got enough Mark character development to where I'm like, all right, cool. I feel like Mark's character is getting pushed forward in a meaningful way. So yes, are there warts on this episode in terms of just what they focused on and even where it falls after the Viltrumite stuff? Like, yes, I don't disagree with you at all. It just didn't ruin the episode for me. Like, it was just one of those, okay, it's not the most polished episode, but it's still really fun, and I'm okay with that. Now, my real issue is that, I'm gonna just talk my shit now. Sorry. Why the heck are animated shows acting like they're doing the prestige television thing where it has to be these 40-minute, 8-episode seasons? I'm sorry, that is unacceptable. I do not,
because they're expensive.
Yeah, but the thing,
at least this show is expensive.
Yeah, but the thing is, Invincible,
because they hire only like Academy Award winning people to do the voices.
Yeah, but they don't have to do that. And the thing is, they know it's not sustainable because they had to recast Mahershala Ali as Titan, and like the voice actor who replaced him was fine. I had zero issue; he was good. But it's one of those, hey man, like I'm not even tripping. I'm not even tripping about the animation. But William got recast. A lot of characters got recasted because these celebrities aren't sustainable and they have their own busy ass schedule, right? Like that was always the big my issue, Brian, and I think this reflects maybe what happened with episode 4 is that like Invincible should just be a longer season period because the comic is one of the longest effing comics you will ever read in your life for a like beginning to end story. But that works because the side stories are meant to flesh out the world. But if our seasons are so short that we get an episode that's some world fleshing out and it feels like filler because you know you only got another 4 episodes to go, then you're taking away what makes the show so good. And when you have these 8-episode seasons, I feel like people feel like they only can invest in the Viltrumite conflict because there's not enough screen time for the other storylines. And it takes away from what makes Invincible so good in the first place, which is that the side storylines are just as effing good as the main one, right? Am I tripping right now, Brian? Like, between the...
You are exactly right. And I want to pile on to this comment.
All right, man.
I think...
All right. Because
I think part of...
Tell them why you mad.
Yeah, tell them why you mad.
Episode 4... I'm going to say it from my chest. Part of why episode 4 felt like filler is because I think I'm losing patience with this animated series for the very things that you're talking about. Because knowing how rich the world of Invincible is, it's almost like not getting its just due in this format, where they're trying to treat it, like you said, like prestige dramatic television in some ways, by having lots of these like dialogue filled moments that really stress the character development, and it throws a lot of things off balance. And right, it's not like those, I'm not saying that those scenes aren't worthwhile, but I'm saying that like the proportion of what's going on at any given moment in the series doesn't always quite add up to a satisfying whole, because you end up spending too much time in one place, not enough time in another, ping ponging back and forth between some things, and then it kind of flattens some of the character development, in that like I feel like in the comic you do get a lot of dimensionality from all the different characters, and see their growth. In this animated series, I'm starting to feel like Mark has become kind of one note, like throughout these 4 seasons, or he's like, he has definitely grown, but like we're sort of like beating the same drum over and over,
Just
like,
sad boy Mark.
I'm
And
I'm
because they need more
sad,
show.
and I kind of get punched in the face a lot, and I lose a lot, and like and our animation budget doesn't like do some of these fights justice a lot, and now we gotta
I was
jump to
saying this in
this
season 2.
we got to jump to this other storyline because it's in the source material, but like we don't have time to do it, and so it's like,
Gotcha.
season 2 I was okay with it, but by season 4 I think it's starting to grate on me,
They need
to
more
the point
TV
where
show.
I feel like the Dark Blood episode feels like filler.
Yeah.
Whereas if they did it in the comic, I think it would be so dope, right? And like if this were an anime series where they had 28 episodes in a season and they're all half an hour, I think an episode like this would be incredible. But it feels like the show is trying to juggle too much and not giving any one thing its due, and kind of like falling under the weight of all of that.
Mm-hmm. So the best analogy I can think of is, imagine Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Had a show, pretty long, beginning to end series, a lot of stuff happening. There's a clear beginning, middle, end type deal, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But because it's such a long show with a lot happening, there was episodes of them, the Fire Island players, right, where they go see the play, or the episode where Zuko and Azula and them go to the beach, or just episodes that are silly, Toph and the Fire Nation just hustling people for money, or Aang going to the Fire Nation school, right? Like, all of those are things that didn't really move the plot forward, but because you had enough TV show, it let you do that, and then that lets you get to see the characters. And that's what I mean, Brian, when I was saying like filler kind of needs to come back, because old filler was just there to pad while they created new material. But filler also still lets you develop characters in situations that aren't high stakes or relevant to the plot, but you still get to learn about them and learn how they behave and react in like a lower stakes situation, right? Like, again, I'm going to refer to Avatar again. Toph just being, everyone else getting mad about how the play portrayed them, and Toph being portrayed by this big giant dude. And it's like, hey, that's just a little Toph character moment of talking about how she views herself. And it's just a little moment that the serious plot stuff wouldn't let you explore. And yeah, man, I think Invincible's suffering from the same thing. Like, basically what I'm saying is, imagine if Avatar had 3 seasons that were 8 episodes a pop. And then they tried to also
and
have
that's what they've done with the live action, right?
And then imagine they tried to do the Fire Emblem. All of the fun side episodes that give you some of the best moments would be like, hey, yo, shouldn't they be fighting the Fire Lord right now? Like, we got we got 8 episodes to go, and y'all on here with them traveling through a road with 2 beefing villages, or you had an Avatar Day Island where they burning effigies of Aang. It's like, yo, we ain't worried about that shit. We worry about the Fire Lord. But when your show is condensing it so much, those little things that made it so good in the first place kind of just get left on the wayside. And to your point, Brian, they feel like now they have to focus on the main conflict. But what makes the main conflict so good is that you get to let it breathe going into these other rich side stories, so that when you do come back to it, you're hyped up. But because they feel like they're so eager to get back to the main plot, the side stories don't feel as fleshed out as they could have been. And so rather than having a fun little side adventure that develops someone, it feels like filler. Like, I would love to be able to have 2 episodes dedicated just to some flax and shit. But you need,
I know.
but you need a 20. But you
you
need
and
like
I
a,
both know
but
that
you
there's
need,
a big flaxen thing.
but
that
you need like a
happens.
20 episode
Are
season
we
to get
even
away
gonna
with
get
that.
it? Yeah.
Or like, is it gonna be like, how much of that will they condense? Because even just like, there's just several things I know in the comic that's like, yo, the payoff to this is amazing, but to give this the credit it deserves, it probably should be like its own episode or chunk of an episode. But it's not the Viltrumite War conflict, and so that just becomes a very big like, do we do this? And now we're getting into like the business side of things, where I just think because TV shows are so afraid to have long running series and they want to do 8 tight episodes and budget stuff, it sucks because that Invincible's not a show that's meant to be condensed. Like, Invincible was so good because it took me effing forever to read it because they were doing so much cool shit. But when you take that away, I mean, you still don't get it twisted. You still have a really good show, but you're leaving a lot. You're taking off the trimmings and dressings that really made it stand out in the first place, and that's unfortunate to see because I think they're doing a lot of shit right. We just need more canvas. We just literally need more show. You know, same length count. Make the episode
Write your
short.
senators,
Bruh. Give us Brian. Like, just imagine how much 6 extra episodes would just let us flesh out these other stories that they're gonna just touch on instead. It'd make a world of a difference. And the wild thing is that they have cool stories to tell, comic or otherwise, because like they gave us the fall of Viltrum, which we didn't get in the comics at all. Like, that was kind of glossed
which is
over.
pretty great.
It was amazing. So like, the show can still execute and do fire shit when they want to. I just think there's just a time budget that lets them not be. They need a bigger plate for all this cooking they're doing, and they're making a fire dish, but like, we ain't got a big enough plate. We can't eat for real, because I want that fall of Viltrum shit.
Metaphor.
I'm serious. Like, the fall of Viltrum, one of the best Invincible moments ever, Brian. Like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is amazing that we got all this. Give us more episodes so you can give us more of this and flesh out iconic comic moments for folks like us too. It's like, dude, so you don't need to hire effing Christ himself to voice the hot dog vendor. Like, ugh.
Well, they got Peter Cullen to do Thaddeus. It's close to Jesus' voices I've ever heard.
And he's hard. He's fire. Look, keep Clancy Brown. Let him handle everything else, and then bring in actual. Which, I mean, he's an actual voice actor. Stop bringing in celebrities, goddammit. Up all the damn
Just
budget.
give us the guy that is Joel for Last of Us.
Troy Baker.
He's good. Yeah. Give us Troy Baker.
I promise you,
know?
Troy Baker is probably in Invincible somewhere. So
I was like, Pedro Pascal. You want more Pedro Pascal?
But they can't even retain the effing people. Like, oh my god! Of course, Troy Baker was Omni-Man's dad.
It was somebody.
He was
Oh,
Omni-Man's dad.
That's funny.
In the Flash.
We just saw him then.
Yes, that was Troy Baker.
Man, his parents were.
Just slot him in.
His parents were
do
a
like
piece
20
We
of work.
characters.
got to talk about that too. I know we're talking about we caught up on episode 4 and all this stuff, but like, man, the stuff before. Oh, so good.
Oh man. Okay. Well, we got to wrap up the show pretty soon here. So yeah, I wish we had more time to talk about that stuff, but feel free to jump in there, Sav. I mean, I really did think some of that stuff with like learning about what Viltrum was actually like before was pretty cool. Seeing Nolan as like kind of a Padawan trainer, right? As almost like a 20-year-old, basically like Mark's age,
Drill
or
sergeant.
his version of Mark's age, was cool. And then you see him get his ass handed to him by his parents. Like, literally their job is to like beat the crap out of him.
What an awful society.
Yeah, but you get to see it. It's like, oh, they're like all ingrained in this like mantra of like we gotta have this violence, like that makes us stronger, and we grow by this or whatever. I don't know, like if we don't have this, then we lose our edge, basically idea. And it's just like a maniacal, sociopathic ideology that they lean into. And Thaddeus talks about it, right, as like, I sent in, I killed the leader, and I thought that would free us from this pathology that we have. And it turns out that no, like they just lean in more heavily. And he's like, so then I had to step it up. And it's like, that just makes them even more, right? And I think that's also playing into this argument of like, do you actually go to the extinction level event as your first try? And is that actually the right thing to do? And and I don't know that there's a right answer to that.
I mean, for the
right?
Viltrumites, yes, the right answer is yes.
Yeah, context dependent.
Yes.
But you see Nolan grappling with this idea of like, wait, so you're willing to like erase us all basically because we've gone this way, and like there's no right, and he's and Thaddeus comes from the perspective of like there's no redeeming the Viltrumites, right? We have not shown any capability of adjusting, changing, becoming something better. But at the same time, Nolan and him stand as examples of Viltrumites who have become better, right? You know what I mean? Like
Get 'em outta here.
it's such a I don't know, a juxtaposition or a what's it called when you have a thing that can't be true?
Mutually, you know, something mutually exclusive or something? What you mean?
I don't know. I guess they're just like walking
Brian,
contradictions,
help him.
but there's another word for
There
it.
you go. Contradiction.
Yeah, but there's another word for that. So anyways, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed like all those moments where we got to see what Viltrum was like, and we got to see them trying to capture all of these like allies, space racer, space racer,
Voiced by Winston Duke.
And oh, that's cool. And they, and then they go to get the Ragnar
space racer,
the Ragnar dinosaur guys, and then almost die because of the Picard character's incompetence.
That was funny. The Star Trek Picard
and a lot of
funny.
lot of good gags. A lot of good gags this season so far. Like the Alan and his wife having way too loud a sex in the
room.
And then he had a room that he could have been in the whole time. That was funny. They stole that panel for panel, like him with the pillow over his head. That's like a panel for panel, which is hysterical.
I don't know why that bugged Omni-Man so much. I feel like Omni-Man would just be like, whatever.
What
like,
you mean?
Apparently he has a prudish sense of
do you want to hear me doing it in the other
Wes,
room?
Are you really saying the statement out loud on purpose?
No, I'm saying we're human and he's Viltrumite, right? Like, I don't know that they have the same sense of like decorum.
Wes, nobody wants to hear anybody having sex with a person, with their peer or friend, one room over, unless you are into some very specific shit.
Yeah.
I think we can universally agree. Yeah, that's not something
I would not want to be there. I would not want to. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like Omni-Man is like mentally stronger and he'd just be like, whatever, and tune it out. Whatever. Is a funny gag.
You be saying
and
some
then
the profound shit, and then just out of nowhere you say some shit like that, and I'm like, what is going on, bro?
The helmet gag was hilarious in the Damien Darkblood one.
I like that.
What else? I don't know. There was a couple other funny gags where I've been like actually enjoying like LOLing while watching this.
Omni-Man just apologized. Omni-Man just saying sorry. And it being the most hilariously awkward but also low-key earnest thing. And
the hug.
I'm just like, oh god, he means it, but man, you really suck at it, dog.
Yeah, like he can't do it.
Also, man, shout out to my guy Paul Wall. But like Paul, I'm rocking with Paul. You know what I'm saying? I'm rocking with Paul. He's thrown into a very chaotic world. He making stuff work with Debbie. I'm still rocking with Debbie.
Oh, I was like, who's Paul? Yeah, I got you.
He's boring, but he's cool. All right.
Yeah.
And I just need Paul and Debbie to work out because Debbie deserves just all the happiness because she's low key one of the better characters.
This is also another interesting development not present in the comics.
Yeah, Paul just period. Yeah,
I'm curious where this goes.
Yeah, because I like Paul. At first, I was like, "Who's this dude?" But like, I gotta admit, they've gotten me.
He's cool.
Paul's won me over. Like, oh, he's very just earnest and navigates this wild shit. Is like, hey man, you handling your business, all things considered. I just want to double down that the Fall of Viltrum was so good. Comic, they just kind of reference it a little bit, but you don't get to see Viltrumite culture. You never got to see a young Nolan. You never got to see Nolan's parents. You never got to see like Viltrumite
all
children.
That was new then.
You never got to see the Scourge virus actually hit the planet and then the actual fall and
they have
death.
to do a whole pandemic situation.
Yeah, like all that. All you know is that the Scourge virus happened and it wiped them out, and like pretty much the same thing that the show told us.
They created a ring around the planet like Saturn of Viltrumite bodies.
Yes, of their dead. Yes,
that was awful.
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing that carried over.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, like all we know in the comic
that the ring. Yeah, there's a ring around.
Mm-hmm. The Viltrum ring is their dead, and that the Scourge virus wiped them out. But like this episode, we got to see the details of it. Like again, we got Omni-Man's parents, which that was all new. Viltrumites getting attacked on their 18th birthday and worked out. That was new. Again, the Viltrumite children, even him saying, "All right, some of y'all gonna die tomorrow. Go find food or shelter if you can. Bring a weapon. Like all of that was just kind of meant to fill out, hey, this is how these people get down. And even though I didn't feel bad for them, man, that was just such good film cinematography, good music and score, just the long, quiet shots and the people dying, and just it was extremely well executed. Which again is like I wish we had more shows so that these dope show original moments they could continue to cook. Because Brian, I don't know if you agree, but it feels like every time they've had a moment to, for the most part in this series, do show original stuff, they've knocked it out the park. Like even the Omni Van Guardians fight, right? Like that wasn't a real fight in the comics. They fleshed that shit out, and that's like the defining entry point of the series. So like, I don't know, man. They're cooking. I just wish they had a bigger plate to put all this delicious food on.
Metaphor.
Yeah, and I want to say like it's worth noting like the attention that went into this Viltrum scourge virus backstory, right? It was also like one, it was expertly crafted and really interesting, fascinating, and dramatic. But it also served the other important purpose of really setting up the other major character arc that's happening, and that's Omni-Man's, right?
Yeah.
And
Talk about
Yeah.
that.
and like it gave us
Talks about
it
his
gave us
trauma.
such an insight into what Omni-Man is grappling with as a Viltrum, right? He's been conditioned to be this terrible being in the planet. Like he himself is a scourge to the rest of the universe. And now he's trying to make up for past harms, trying to figure out like how much he can honestly help in this war against his own people that he of course still feels deeply attached to and cares about. Can he push his own people into extinction?
It's so
Like,
good. It's so
and
good.
why would he want to do that? And like what lengths is he willing to go to? And then being asked to recruit his own son, who who he still has love for, right? And drag him into that whole mess as well. And so I think that's a very important conflict that's going to carry out through the rest of the series. I think, and and I think it matches up well with everything that's going on with Mark. Right, they're sort of like both having these mirror existential crises.
Oh, no, absolutely, Brian. And it's easy to kind of flip over the Omni-Man stuff. But yeah, you're right. Like Omni-Man's actually, in fact, you could probably argue that Omni-Man's probably he hasn't suffered from the condensing of the show development wise that Invincible has. Where Invincible got to have more. Well, Invincible benefited from the comic of having more moments to be a chill, regular person, and that kind of feels out like him being a nerd and going to conventions and shit. Like they kind of moved away from that stuff that filled him out. But yeah, man, think about it. Omni-Man hasn't really suffered from that. Like looking back, Omni-Man's actually gotten a really nice little development trail of he misses his wife.
Yeah, he gets to hang out with Alan all the time.
Alan's his new friend, and he was gonna let himself die. And he has a new will to live. He said he misses his wife. He had his son Oliver, and even when on Thraxa, he felt he deserved death for what he did. And now that I think about it, Omni-Man's actually had a pretty dynamic up and down arc of just where he's at. And even now, he's in that he's not evil. He's not against his people. Because he wants to do the right thing, kinda, but he still just wants to look out for his kids. He's in a very interesting place. Omni-Man's never been my favorite character, but I think these deeper character development moments, J.K. Simmons' voice acting is doing a really good job of just carrying that and selling that. I was less of a fan of him in the comic, and in the show, he's a lot more
Agreed.
He's just a lot more likable and charismatic, and just
there's more depth to him.
Yeah, he's just a lot more. There's a lot more depth to him, and it's a more interesting. But to your point, yes, Brian, we know that I don't feel bad for Viltrum, but it does give you context of like Omni-Man wasn't going to turn out any other way. Like it's definitely an interesting nature versus nurture convo of like y'all still deserve what y'all got, but
Yeah.
woof, y'all had the odds stacked against you. I mean, they literally kill children at training sessions who get wrong answers, and even amongst those children, some of them are scripted to die just off of like a culling process. And it's like they're almost like you know what that reminds me of, Brian? The Gith from Baldur's Gate.
Oh, yes.
It's almost Gith Yankee coded of like, you know how like you know throughout the game Lae'zel is like, oh, Lae'zel, you're a badass, you could fight, but man, you were indoctrinated so deep that it's like, oh man, you never stood a chance. And then their arc is obviously breaking away from that, and it's like, oh man, that's kind of how Omni-Man is, of like, you never stood a chance, bro. But it's a very fun nature-nurture convo of like, it's both, but how much is one overwhelming the other, and how much of that can change through external shit. And like, I guess that'll be an interesting convo throughout the show.
Yeah, what a redemption arc for him, because I hated him.
I still hate him.
Season 2 and 3. Well, I don't hate him anymore. I'm like rooting for him. I want him to
he destroyed Chicago.
What I want him to
that's a testament to what they're doing with this
exactly
character,
yeah
right? Like,
I want him
a
to
character
succeed
to
now.
be redeemed.
Yeah, exactly. I love a redemption arc.
I find him compelling and interesting. I don't think I'd ever forgive Omni-Man, but I still am interested in his story, because I always love a story of a character who wants to, I don't even know if it's redemption. I think of it almost as atonement more than redemption, because certain actions, but that's always its own fun little character arc, right? Of like, hey, you've done this awful thing. And like, it goes back, even like Sinclair kind of just popped up, right? Of like, and even him had that conversation with Mark of like, echoes of that conversation pop up when Mark is talking to his dad again, because Mark wasn't trying to hear shit from Sinclair.
Yeah.
But Sinclair was earnest and made a very good point of like, Sinclair is not looking for forgiveness. He just said, I'm just trying to atone and do better. And I don't know, the whole atonement versus forgiveness, redemption is always very interesting. And I'm curious where Omni-Man is going to fall on this. I lean more towards atonement, because you can't cure that many people and get forgiven. But like, what do you decide to do knowing that you'll never be forgiven, but you still want to do the right thing? And
well, I think that, to me, that is redemption, right? Like, you have redeemed yourself in terms of you have recognized that like what you did wasn't okay, and are changing your life. You're changing your choices. You're changing your perspective to match a certain level of care for other people, right? Like, and I think that's where he's going. Like, hopefully, eventually, right? Like, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's cool.
Yeah, but redemption is different from atonement.
Is there justice that needs to be done?
Is there
what? Is there still justice that needs to be done for what Omni-Man has perpetrated?
Well,
that's another
I feel like
question,
if he takes out
right?
the Viltrum Empire, right? Like, that's one form of it, right?
But that's the interesting combo of redemption versus atonement, which are two very, like, they feel similar, but they are different things. Redemption is like we forgive you for what you did. You've been redeemed. Atonement is I'm trying to do what I can to make up for what I've done, not necessarily with the expectation of being forgiven. Like, atonement would be Omni-Man saying,
you're being semantic about the word redemption. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, this idea of like,
no, but I think it's very
this idea
different.
of like, in my eyes, you are redeemed. Like, in my eyes, you are redeemed, right? Like, I have come to see you as a full character and not just as like a villain, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in the context of the world,
he
wants to atone, but will other characters, if he ever be redeemed in other characters' eyes? Because you trying to make shit right versus other people saying I forgive you is two very different things. And I'm like, where's the show going to land on this? Will certain characters forgive him? Will no one forgive him but still say you can atone? I always think those stories are really interesting.
I think it's fair. Yeah.
Shitty characters knowing they can't be forgiven but still trying to choose to do the right thing is always that always makes for very compelling writing.
Yeah.
Almost Zuko coded.
Agreed. Yeah.
Zuko didn't like mass slaughter people though.
Yeah, but he still did some awful shit. And again, it's atonement versus redemption. You could argue that he atoned and then was redeemed later. What will happen with Omni-Man? I don't know, but that's what's interesting because his character is so complicated.
Well, and similar to Zuko, he grows up in this world expecting him to be a certain thing and training him to be a certain thing. And so you have to unlearn some of that stuff when you get out into the real world and find that, like, wait, not everybody feels this way, right? Or like to empathize with how do other people expect it.
And that's why they're such loved characters. It's dope.
It's
dope shit to watch on screen. They do it very well.
All right. Well, let's wrap it there. Brian, you got any last minute thoughts?
No.
Okay. Eve is pregnant. Oh God.
Yeah, that's kind of wild.
All right.
Is that wild that the super sperm was shooting through the condoms?
That was pretty funny.
It was like spinning around the IUD and like hitting the egg.
Anyways.
Gotcha.
Maybe they are super. Who knows? All right, friends, we're out of here. Have a good one. The homework is to go see Project Hail Mary. That's what we're going to talk about on next week's episode. Laters. Bye.
incredible.